Hello and welcome to today's sustainability webinar. We're going to present Lenzing's corporate sustainability report of 2020. I'm glad that all of you have joined us here today for this very important topic that's really close to our heart. My name is Lisa Kastner and I will be the host of today's meeting. Before we go into detail on the agenda, I would briefly like to share a few bits and pieces about the Lenzing Group. We have been founded and headquartered in Austria and stand for many years of ecologically responsible production of specialty fibers made from the renewable base material of wood. We produce lyocell, modal and viscose fibers, as well as co-products. Our textile, non-woven, and technical products can be found under the following brand names that you see on the left-hand side in this nice little tag on the slide. So Tencel, Ecovero, Lenzing, and Viocell. Lenzing is present all around the world. We are, as I said, headquartered here in Austria, but have production sites as well as sales and marketing offices all around the world to be close to our customers. Today's webinar actually is about the sustainability report, but of course, as you can imagine, we can't present everything because the report has more than 140 pages. We would sit here tomorrow, I guess. So we selected a few key topics for you today, talking about climate and energy highlights, then circularity, some sustainable innovations, as well as where our raw materials come from, and ratings, as well as stakeholders and our third-party engagements. And who better to present this today than our Vice President and Head of Corporate Sustainability, Krishna Manda. Krishna has been with us for more than 10 years, I think. And when asking him about what sustainability means to him, he says the most important is the human factor. So really making sustainability a way of life, which I find a very cool reason to go into that topic. So before I hand over to Krishna, a few technical details. On the right-hand side, you have a field in your WebEx window that says Q&A. Please feel free to always type in questions during the webinar. We will try to answer all of them afterwards. So after he does his presentation, we have quite an extensive Q&A session. And also this webinar is recorded. So if you have to leave earlier, if a colleague of you can't join, or if you want to revisit later, you can always do so. So now, Krishna, stage is yours. I hand over to you.
Thank you, Lisa, for the kind intro. Welcome, everyone. Thanks for joining us today for this webinar. My name is Krishna Manda, and I lead global sustainability at the Lenzing Group. I have been working in Lenzing in different capacities around 12 years so far. Before I actually jump into the content, I would like to do a short exercise. The main reason is, a critical task of a leader is to transition from one context to the another, or one meeting to the another, while bringing their best versions, but also being present for the people that are in that context and help them bring their best versions. So to be grounded and here and now, to be fully present for this webinar, I would like you to do 5 deep breaths with me, which will help you to grounded and settle down for the webinar and fully present here. So the only simple instruction is inhale through your nose and exhale through your mouth, and try to ensure your exhale is longer than the inhale, and do it at your own pace, and I will bring you back after 5 breaths. So I will leave it to you how you do, but I just do it. So if you wanted to follow me, follow as well. Yeah, I'm starting my inhale. Welcome back to the webinar, and I hope you are fully present for the webinar and being here and now. Um, I have two objectives for this webinar. The first and the foremost is give you the, the update of the brief progress that we are making in the last 1 year in 2022. And also actually honestly discuss some of the challenges we are actually facing on the ground, which will help you in your own decision making and how you work with your partners. And the second one is we would also like to hear from you the questions that you get in your mind. So please type in, as Lisa has already mentioned. So please look at it as a two-way communication or two-way dialogue. Despite I might be speaking a lot to answer your questions, but we would really like to hear your concerns, suggestions, opinions, so that we actually learn from your thinking. So please feel free to do that. So with that, I would like to tell you a few things. I mean, Lisa has mentioned about the content, right? So we will actually emphasize the most important achievements, but also, as I said, the challenges and some reflections. But before I do that, I would like to focus on the foundations of sustainability. So you know that where that actual progress coming from, right? So next slide. So for any sustainability thing is the most important things as foundations is like you can see integration and engagement, strategy and targets, and governance. You know, and I will talk about what do they mean and how we are actually implementing them. Before I do that, I would like you to also reflect on one more important thing of the mindset of the people, how we are actually dealing and leading the people in the sustainability domain within the Lenzing group. Can you click once more? Um, so we lead ourselves by making connection with the people, right? You need to look at people as not just resources; they are the means and the end. The whole sustainability is we are doing for the sake of humanity and other species as well, but we are seeking that connection from those beings, I would call, right? And the second one is trust-based relationships. If you wanted to go long journey, right, at the same time, this is a infinite game, as Simon Sinek says about business, and sustainability is even more important. From that point of view, you wanted to bring actually trust-based relationships. At the end of our life, what we look back is those wonderful memories that we create with the people, right? That's very important for me and the team that we are working with. And the third thing is self-compassion and empathy. I would mention this. I have been in sustainability for more than 17 years so far. And I must tell you, there are so many moments of ups and downs and failures and a lot of learnings out of that. But I don't want it to beat myself and also the teams that are doing and failing sometimes. So there should be self-compassion towards ourselves who are actually practicing sustainability. But the second thing is the empathy toward the teams and the functions you are working with. You know, they're also going through a lot of challenges. I will mention a few things. So I want to also have empathy towards the people who we are collaborating with. What are their challenges? How can I put myself into their shoes? What kind of specific help can I bring to them? I think this understanding of empathy towards other people is so important. So these are the key foundations we do have as a sustainability mindset within our team and also the teams that we are working with. And I would like to mention that other three, the goals are the pillars that we are talking as foundations here. Next slide, please. So integration and engagement, right? So sustainability is actually, it's all about people, right? The people who are working in different functions, whether you call it procurement or innovation, operations, risk, HR, all those functions, right? We work with more than 12 functions internally. And at the same time, we work with operations like nine facilities throughout the world of Lenzing. You know what? These are the colleagues actually moving the agenda of the sustainability in the Lenzing group, right? So what do? We do work with them to ensure that sustainability is their day-to-day business, right? And also they integrate sustainability in their decisions, right? So this is very important, and I would like to thank all these colleagues. And I also wanted to remind you, last year 2022 is unprecedented in terms of challenges at the backdrop of COVID. We actually had even Ukraine war bringing geopolitical instability, and 10 times energy price in Europe, 4 times price of raw materials. You know how much havoc it is creating to the teams internally, and how much budgeting and all those issues that are affecting. Despite that, I'm really thankful all the teams throughout the Lenzing group from different functions and facilities who have done make it happen. And the other thing is my own team, corporate sustainability team, in facilitating, guiding, being there as hand holding sometimes to take people in this journey. And as I said, they're kind of embodying this connection, trust-based relationships and those. So I would like to actually thank my team. And finally, the corporate sustainability report core team led by Laura Bohm from our corporate communication team, who did a fantastic job. So this report is a progress report of Lenzing coming from all these functions and people. Thank you so much for doing that. Yeah, and integration is really important for any sustainability to go far ahead, right? And the second of the pillar is actually strategy and targets. Why do we need strategy and targets? These people, second slide, please. Yeah, thank you. These people who are working needs direction, need ambition. They need to actually prioritize on a day-to-day basis what is important for the group, what is important for the sector, what is important for my employees and the colleagues, right? These are the things, right? So we do have a sustainability strategy with the three key pillars, which are in the middle: advancing circularity, greening the value chain, and driving systemic change. Within those three, we have 7 focus areas. You can see like decarbonization, raw material security, and empowering people, which is very important. So within those focus areas, we have around 18 targets, and each target also have some concrete kind of measures, or you can also call them milestones. So around we get to have 30 targets and milestones. So this is actually helping us going the direction with concrete achievements and results that we are bringing as a team at the global One Lenzing team. So next slide. So this gives you a glimpse of the targets we have in different areas, whether it's water, whether it's climate, whether it's actually transparency, but also the people aspects of sustainability. All those things are part of our sustainability targets. You can go to this link below and find out yourself how we are making progress on each of those targets, right? Having targets is one thing, but if you look at recently, there are some publications saying that many companies, like 85% of the companies have targets, but they don't have programs to lead the follow up and ensure that they are being actually implemented well on the ground. That's where I will bring you governance. Can you go to the next slide? So how we do it, right? At the Lenzing, we have a target governance process where each target has one executive board level sponsor, one target owner, and one lead for each target. And every 3 months, we actually have a target progress meeting with these colleagues, and who are actually ensuring the targets are making progress. Can you go back to the slide 9 once more in the full mode? Yeah, I think, yeah, excellent. Thank you. Thank you. So you can see also the progress of those targets are actually being reported in the quarterly ESG committee, also led by me as a head of sustainability there. But there are cross-functional teams also coming to inform what progress they are making on their specific topics that we choose important for the year and for the next 3 years, for example. But the targets have been given a specific time so that we can present it to the board and get their feedback. If there need to be alignment, if there need to be resources, all those things can be sorted out, right? So that quarterly ESG committee actually kind of pushes the agenda of sustainability by bringing alignment with cross-functional teams and also ensuring it's on the top of the leadership mind, the board mind, right? So that is the second point. And the third is, how do you ensure that sustainability performance matters to everyone in the company? That's by linking sustainability performance with the remuneration of the executive team. So we have actually had our executive board's long-term incentive bonus element has been linked to sustainability goals, especially climate, circularity, and water. And we are also extending this to people aspects as well. And so this is very important. They have these concrete goals they need to achieve on a long-term basis so that you can actually see things are happening. And we also actually communicate to the stakeholders what progress we are making. Sustainability report is one of those mechanisms. With that, these are the foundations why we are making progress on sustainability. And I would like to bring to your attention now the real topic of sustainability report today. So we are very, very thankful and proud to all the colleagues who contributed. Please visit our website, their online report. It's a wonderful digital report. You have also stories that you can hear from our colleagues who are doing the things behind the scenes. And there are so many insights. Yeah. Maybe our colleagues can post the link in the chat box as well now. And the other thing is that just to give you an overview of sustainability report, the one of the first chapters is about managing sustainability with the things I just mentioned, and the other are material topics. So we have done a double materiality that defined which are the material topics for Lenzing, where Lenzing need to make contribution. It's not like you randomly choose, but you need to ensure that is actually it is relevant for our stakeholders to make decisions, whether it's customers, investors, employees, and suppliers, and those. Based on that, we have these material topics. Each topic has a chapter, and what we have done in that topic, you can also find the progress there, right? And the next slide, please. So just to give you a glimpse, we have also put some key indicators, and one of the indicators that I wanted to bring to your attention is carbon dioxide, I mean the greenhouse gas reduction, which is 18% compared to the baseline of 2017. The same way, we also have reduced 10% for water-related emissions, and there are others as well. Can you come back to the full screen mode of the presentation? Yeah, thank you. Thank you. And next slide. So as I said, like we cannot cover the whole presentation, whole sustainability report, but we wanted to give you the most important achievements, some of them, not all, and also have a conversation with you on your challenges as well, which we would like to learn from you. The first and foremost on our agenda is climate, right? Climate is very important topic for our whole society and actually the species on this planet. There are so many forces working, and as humanity, we also need to take our responsibility as a company, responsible company. We have our goals. Next slide. So we are actually having concrete goals. However, I'm not sure how many of you are aware of this, the characterization of the scopes. But scope one is actually our own emissions from our own operations like boilers and those, and also in-house vehicles. And the second one is the electricity and steam we buy from our suppliers. They are called scope 2, and scope 3 is all the raw materials and logistic services, but also investments and whatnot. You can actually even employee commuting and supply chain emissions of all our chemicals, pulp, wood. We buy for our operations. All those are part of scope 3 emissions, and you can see the share that scope 3 is around 53%, which is the biggest share, and others have like scope 1 is 34%, right? So next slide. So here, what I would like to talk about is that climate change is not just a sustainability topic for the company. It's actually part of our corporate strategy, better growth strategy, which we have devised last year. That means apart from EBITDA, revenue, and those targets, the board also have set a target for the whole group on decarbonization. So we have a science-based target for 2030, which is 30% reduction by 50% reduction by 2030 compared to 2017 baseline. And we are actually one of the first companies in terms of the raw material companies to be having the science-based target verified by the initiative. And we also have an ambition to be net zero by 2050 for all scopes 1 to 3. And we are actually making progress to help you as our customers. Whatever progress we make will help you, right? I will explain you how. The products that you buy, for example, here we put our carbon neutral products, which are actually having the lowest CO2 footprint in their category in the industry. So if you take Tencel Lyocell from Lenzing Group, it has the lowest impact compared to generic Lyocell from the market. And we are even going further by creating competition within internally by creating criteria to qualify only few facilities to be able to actually produce that. Like, for example, they have renewable electricity 100%, and there are some other criteria. What is their scope 1 and 2 emissions? What is their scope 1, 2, 3 emissions? So we have that so that we are pulling the facilities internally. But the push comes from you, the demand that comes from you will actually transform the company. So we have new products as well here that we would like you to try and find out how they're actually impacting your portfolio and emissions. So yeah, next slide. See, here I would like to explain to you what are the key things we have done for climate. There are so many, I'm very proud the achievements done by different teams together, whether it's facilities or procurement strategy, sustainability teams together. The first and foremost is we have 6 production facilities using 100% renewable grid electricity. And the second one is on the slide is our newest Lyocell site in Thailand is designed for scope 1 and 2 carbon neutrality with 100% sustainable bioenergy. And the newest the pulp facility in Brazil, which has been ramped up last year only, also providing excess bioenergy to the grid. And we also had one of the largest ground mounted photovoltaic system in the state of Upper Austria in the country of Austria. And we are actually even having more projects. But I would like to take a pause here. The 6 production facilities using 100% renewable grid electricity. If I quantify that, it comes down to around reduction of 250,000 to 300,000 tons of CO2 equivalent. Do you know how much it is? If you look at a big brand, their scope 1 and 2 emissions, they are in between 30 to 50,000 tons per year. So effectively by this measure, we are actually nullifying or neutralizing around 5 to 7 or even more brand scope 1 and 2 emissions together. So around 7 brand scope 1 2 emissions we are nullifying. This is the enormity or the magnitude of the impact we are creating. But there is also a flip side to it, right? I mean, I'm just not only saying what is actually going well, but I also wanted to say that we haven't made progress on one target we have put for ourselves to move away from coal to become have natural gas in our China facility. But that comes with a lot of challenges with because of the bureaucracy on the ground and even supply, availability of supply of natural gas to the industry like ours. So think about it when you are. So I think 2 things. What does it mean to bring all these initiatives on the ground? It is not easy to buy this renewable electricity at that quantity and quality from different people in the world. I mean, in different locations. To be honest, we had to go through like 6-month due diligence to understand, are these renewable electricity things we are buying going to create additionality? That means new capacities increasing. There is no double counting. What type of guarantees are available in these countries? So we looked into all those things. And as I mentioned, to completely move away from coal is very ambitious and a very important topic that we all need to work together. But we also need to help the people on the ground, the suppliers especially. It is not so easy. As an industry, we need to come forward and do it. And it's like, in our case, it's actually tens of millions of dollars investment, and still there is a lot of bureaucracy to get it. So understand those challenges. When you ask targets to your value chain partners, think about it, what support they need. And the other thing is that we are buying all these things at a premium, right? So there is not much supply of renewable electricity everywhere. So we are buying with higher price. Natural gas is also maybe 2 times higher than the coal in those locations, or even more. But there is no level playing field for the fibers we are selling in the market. Most of the times, many customers look at cost as an important thing, and sustainability need to be cost neutral, but I don't think we are yet there. We might need at least 5 to 7, 10 years to get to that cost neutrality, because everywhere it has been adapted. So think about it, how you can actually help us. If you don't help us in buying these products that we are making with low carbon footprint, I'm not really sure we can succeed in the long run around 5 years, 3 years from now. So our success is in your hands. If you support us by working with us, by partnering with us, then only we can make progress. And when you buy these, actually there is a benefit to you. Your scope 3 emissions will be substantially reduced. I think it is very difficult for you to reduce scope 3. So this is the benefit you as a customer have when you buy these things. Yeah. I would like to transition to the another topic, that is circularity. Can you go to the next slide? Oh, sorry. Still we have biodiversity. So we actually, part of the climate change also, if you can look at the bigger picture, biodiversity will be also be impacted by climate. So we actually try to integrate that together. So we have made progress on investing in projects. So we have contributed to a project in Democratic Republic of Congo to conserve around 300,000 hectares of rainforest. We made a contribution there, and we have making and continuing our project in Albania to reforest a few hectares. However, that is not the only impact we are creating. We are actually training the local foresters who are going to impact around 100,000 hectares of community forest here with better forest management practices. Yeah. And the third one is our facility in Brazil has its own eucalyptus plantation, which has kept aside around 17,000 hectares of forest for conservation itself, right? It's for the nature to actually thrive. So these are the things that we do along with climate and other things. They are all interlinked. So with that, I would like to bring to a question that we have. We would like to hear your opinion. What are your biggest challenges reducing your carbon footprint? So Lisa, can you guide the...
Yes, thank you, Krishna. I think it was very interesting already talking about climate and what you told us. So now your opinion matters to us. On the right-hand side, you find a question. This question, what are your biggest challenges reducing your carbon footprint? Please, we'd really like to hear what you have to say. Everyone will see the answers. We won't go into detail, of course, into all the answers. But for us, it's extremely important to hear your view on that, because this is a learning for us. So please type in everything that you have, all the challenges you face. Maybe we can help. As Krishna mentioned, with some of them, we might be able to help.
So we give you 20 seconds or
Yes.
more. Yeah.
People are already talking about scope 3 that you mentioned, Krishna. There is also one or two things we will cover within the presentation today also that was here, talking about transparency later on as well.
And how our products also help reduce wet processing emissions as well. For example, we can talk about those.
Exactly. So I will leave this poll open,
Yeah,
so you're free to type in.
excellent. Yeah.
Okay.
So we would like to then move to the circularity, another important topic for lensing and the world. Um, so for lensing, circularity goes beyond actually only recycling, because that is the lens usually people put for circularity. Many people just assume about recycling. However, it goes beyond recycling for lensing, and we look at two important ways. One is the biosphere. You can also call them regenerative biological cycle or biosphere, and the other one is a circular technosphere. So in the case of regenerative biosphere, we have been using renewable raw material like wood from sustainable origin, and then the fibers are at the end of their life can be biodegradable and compostable. So you are actually closing the natural cycle, right? That's one thing. And the second thing is the um, pulp making and fiber making, we actually created a lot of closed loops so that we recover the chemicals from either it is wood, not only pulp, but you can also recover chemicals there and then use for other applications. Or you can also recover chemicals in the fiber making and use them as long as possible within the same loop. So you're actually reducing, actually speaking, the scope 3 emissions of buying new chemicals for making those fibers. So for us, circularity goes in all those ways. And then we also help the industry by incorporating their post-industrial waste, textile waste from the garment making factories. And we are also working on with our partners about incorporating post-consumer textile waste in our fibers. Can you go to the next slide? So here we would like to mention a few examples. We have partnered with Sodra, our pulp partner, who is developing with our collaboration on to process around 25,000 tons of textile waste by 2025. I think you need to put into perspective. Maybe this is just the beginning for all of us, and then we also have made supply agreement with Renewcell to buy for the next 5 years or so. So you have also the post-consumer textile waste made pulp is also coming to Lenzing. And the other important project here is the Eurotex rehabs. So in 2025, the European Union will have mandatory textile waste collection, which will bring around 5 million tons of textile waste every year. What will you do with that waste? Do we have the infrastructure to actually process that waste? Do we have infrastructure to collect, to sort, to recycle? So Lenzing has partnered with Eurotex and they are working on a blueprint on how do we actually scale this at the European wide. So there were nice outcomes coming out of that. I would like you to actually go through that project as well. And we are also partnering with the academics to actually address some of the challenges that we are talking about, right? So it may be on one hand that we are making progress, but if you ask me, are we happy with this? We are making ourselves. We started in 2012 to have the recycled content integrated into in our fiber, and we launched our Refibra fiber. And to be honest, we haven't achieved the scale that really we want to achieve. And we consider the decade of 2020 to 2030 is the year of circularity for the whole world and especially for lensing. And we wanted to make progress, but we haven't actually succeeded in bringing the scale we wanted to actually get. So I would like you to think about how you can support, because at the end of the day, when you buy these fibers, which may be costlier than the other fibers because you don't have the scale for collection, sorting, and you need to adapt the fiber making process. And one more important thing, Lenzing wanted to launch fibers that can be commercially processable in the whole textile value chain without faults in spinning and less challenges in dyeing and finishing. That's why we take time, right? And but we still need your support. There are around 30 to 50 brands who have launched collections with our fibers, but to be honest, it's peanuts we are talking about in terms of 110 million tons of textile fibers we consume in the world. What we are talking is very, very minute quantity. So with that kind of demand, we cannot actually achieve the scale we wanted to achieve. So again, think in your shoes, like how you can help innovators like Lenzing, but there are also so many nice startups coming and trying to provide the technology. How can you actually support all these companies, right? So without that, we cannot bring the scale. There are so many companies having a lot of targets, but when it comes on the ground, I'm not so happy. I don't be very, very honest with you. We are not actually walking the talk in terms of creating the demand in the market. So please, I wanted to be very humble there to be criticizing each other, including ourselves. We could do even better probably, but this is the challenges we have, right? So let's work together on that as well. Next slide. So the one other important aspect is innovation. So when you talk about innovation, I hope Lenzing comes to your mind because we are very proud of our innovation streak and which actually introduced lyocell to the world at a huge scale, and still growing in that area. So you can see on the slide how many different things we have actually done last year. As I said, despite the unprecedented market environment, I would like to mention a few important things here. So we have actually launched a new fiber with 20% hemp-based pulp and 80% wood pulp. And these fibers are used by Candiani Denim to create a limited edition of denim, and which is really interesting for us. And this shows the power of possibility. What is possible? But do we have the amount of pulp we need for it? No. So we need to also, as an industry, scale the required hemp pulp and those kind of things. But we wanted to show what is feasible, what is possible in the long run, and wanted to give you some ideas for now, right? At the same time, we also have launched applications. Like one of our one of our teams have worked with uh, kind of to develop a application like seamless athletic wear without using elastane. So this one actually uses 100% lyocell fibers because it is close to these actually circular design so that you can actually recycle them again because there is no contamination, right? So it uses tensile lyocell filament and fibers. So we are very proud of that. And in the case of our non-wovens business, we also have very good progress on flushable wipes. Many public water works are actually spending millions of taxpayers' money to remove the clogs in the pipelines. It's really, really big problem. So the fibers, our cellulosic fiber wipes can be the wipes made of those could be actually disintegrating easily, so they are not actually causing any trouble to the world. So they actually a good solution for flushable wipes. In the same way, we also have been working on a technology, web technology, where we transform pulp directly into a non-woven fabric. So we are actually kind of combining 2, 3 steps in one go. You might be a lot of reduction of the CO2 and other impacts also happening in that space, and which will help our converter partners and the brands and retailers in that area to launch sustainable products in the long run. Yeah, and yeah, these are the things that we are really, really proud of. And of course, we can do even more always, but we would like to have your ideas also coming through us. Yeah. Um, so we have a concept called net benefit products. The, the whole idea is that the products provided by Lenzing have superior and sustainability benefits compared to the conventional alternatives in the market. That is the way we define in terms of net benefit. And it also includes the whole value chain. Yeah, so some examples are in the next slide. Here we can show you how we are actually providing you support in terms of having eco viscose with Lenzing, EcoVero for textiles, or VioCell viscose eco for non-wovens, with around 50% reduction of CO2 emissions compared to the generic viscose versions. And similarly, we have net zero or carbon neutral, actually, carbon neutral product portfolio, which is expanding with the movement of improving our each facility. So we also have other products from other areas. You can see all on the slide. The most important thing is that these are made with independent verification of third parties. So when you are using them, you can also have the confidence to make those claims. So we will talk about some of the regulatory things that are happening in the world. So we are actually working towards all those things to improve that. Yeah. Next slide. So Lisa, over to you.
Thank you, Krishna. So you heard a lot about what we already try to provide, but of course, as Krishna mentioned, your input is extremely valuable, and without it, we can't drive sustainability and we can't drive innovation. So in general, what solutions can Lenzing provide to support you further? Once again, on the right-hand side, you have the possibility to type in, it's open text, just type in within the poll whatever you can think of. This question will also be left open until the end, because we know that sometimes this requires some thought. But again, here, about 30 seconds that we're spending on this right now, not going to a further topic, but please feel free, type in everything you can think of. I see 4 people are already typing, so. Give you a few more seconds to finalize your thoughts. Okay, quite a few things coming in. There is a topic also of material sourcing. We will cover that also in an instant.
Great. So let the, as you mentioned, let the poll still there, so people can give us important inputs like they are doing. Thank you all. Please contribute with your thoughts, and we will move slowly forward while colleagues are actually typing in. The topic of traceability and transparency also very important for the industry, and especially when you wanted to reach, achieve the sustainability in the world, you need to have traceability and transparency, at least in the current situation or the context, right? But what does traceability and transparency mean? So next slide. Actually, they are two sides of the same coin for us. The transparency is able to provide the impacts of a product, right, or the process, and the traceability is ensuring that what impact you have provided is actually be in the same product, right? It's so sometimes people claim something, but it's counterfeited and you don't even know whether it's a real thing we are talking about, right? That also comes from traceability from my point of view. So we are working on traceability and transparency for a long time. So somebody mentioned about LCA. So we do provide LCA for our fibers, and you can find all those in our through the MSI or Quantis apparel database. So we are working with the third parties to make the verifications and those things possible, but we can only do at the fiber level, right? So at the end product level should be kind of responsibility of the companies that are selling those end products, which have enough information for them to do it, which is also expected from the European regulations in the future. Right. When it comes to what we do, how it will help you is that we have both the physical traceability with our identifier, but we also have the digital traceability to help you using blockchain technology. Also, you can find which partners you are working, who is buying what, how can you provide that traceability to your consumers at the end of the day. We have collaborated with Textile Genesis, and 3 years ago or 2 years ago, it was only around 500 partners, and we have actually more than 1,500 partners. Again, thanks to your support. So we have actually been able to scale it, but we could do even better there, right? There are so many millions of companies, but we are only talking about 1,500 partners. Despite it's a good progress, but maybe we can do better as a industry. And the second is we have disclosed our wastewater treatment emissions from viscose facilities for the last year in the GDHC platform, and we will do also for Lyocell in the future. Because the standards only came in the last months, and we are preparing for those. And we also have e-branding services to give you swing tags and all those things, which help the consumer to know what is inside the product, and which is actually coming from responsible origin, like Lenzing products and fibers. And we are so glad and thankful that it is growing at a compound growth rate of 40% or more than 40% year per year. It's all because of you. Thank you for your continued support. Um, so but at the end of the day, you need to know that what is actually ensuring the origin of Lenzing fibers, right? How sustainable it is. So that's why the raw materials, the wood and pulp is one of the most important raw material we use, other than chemicals and pulp that we buy. So let's look at how we are doing there. And I think many of you are aware, Lenzing has a very strict wood and pulp sourcing policy to only source from so sustainable sources, right? We don't source anything other than that. All our commercial fibers that are available in the market comes from 100% certified or controlled sources. And all these actually also being not only done through FSC, PFC, and those, but also third parties like Canopies, Preferred by Nature as one of the auditors are also going through the books and those kind of things. So it's actually open, right? So we are actually keeping that for not now, for decades, actually. That is one of our backbones of providing sustainable material origin. And of course, if you look at the holistic context of the industry, the wood used for making the pulp for our industry fibers is very little, which is less than 1%. Doesn't mean that we are not going to, it's not important. Just saying that the bigger contribution also comes from all of us as consumers. What are we eating, right? Sometimes maybe the meat is coming from Amazon forest destruction. So we also need to think a little bit, how can I actually reduce that or avoid it completely? That means the deforestation there. How can I change my own practices as a responsible human being? So we can also think about those things, not only from the business point of view, but from the personal point of view. Next slide. So the other angle of raw material security is the suppliers that we have for chemicals and pulp and those. So we have a concrete and dedicated targets to engage 80% supplier with 80% of our spend, covering 80% of the spend. We have been actually working with our suppliers in this area more than 5 years with EcoVadis, and we know where they stand, how they can improve. And we also went even one step further last year to include sustainability as part of the kind of contractual process and the criteria for buying the raw materials. So we have included now in the procurement clauses or contract clauses, climate and water and actually chemicals related questions to ensure that what we are doing is right, and we are giving incentive for our suppliers to integrate sustainability as part of their decision making. And we are also proud that we actually have this new facility in Brazil, which produces pulp of 500,000 tons, which is one of the biggest dissolving wood pulp mill, which also kind of strengthens our backward integration of the Lenzing group. So these are the things that we have made last year. Yeah. Next slide. So all in all, we are doing many things, but how does it fare in terms of what we do is being third party verified so that people also contribute whether we are doing the right thing in the right direction. We would like to have that conversation, but maybe before we go into that, Lisa, you wanted to ask them something, right?
Exactly. Thank you, Krishna. So before we go into detail on this, we really want to know once again about your perspective, because we know that there are a lot of ratings, certifications that are out in the market, but for us it's important which of these assessing sustainability performance are the most important for you. So once again, on the right-hand side, please use the function to just type in what's the most important for you. This is really interesting for us and also very important because we work together with our partners, and we want to make sure that we don't just talk about doing things, but that things are really verified also by third parties. Some of them we will hear afterwards. Yes, that's good. So we will give you a few seconds also to type in here. I will also leave this one open until the end. So whenever you can think of any association of any certification or rating, please feel free to type in.
Excellent. Shall we move forward then?
Yes, let's do that.
Okay, good. Um, so last year, actually, we also proud to achieve some of the results that are on the screen. One of the most difficult one is CDP. Having a AAA is really, really difficult without having integration aspect embedded in the company. So we have been working with so many functions, as I mentioned, all of us together have made that progress. Because of that, we could get CDP AAA for forest, climate, and water. And it's only given this three AAA for these three together only for 12 companies in the world, and we are one of those. So we are very, very proud of that achievement. And again, thanks to all the teams that are doing fantastic job there. We also got Canopy first rank last year with all the work that is done by our colleagues in the wood and pulp and commercial, and led by my great colleague Peter Barch and others. And in the case of EcoVadis, you also see that we have actually had platinum and other ratings, which we didn't cover everything, but we also have EU Eco Label, and we have FSC-PFC, and we are actually working on HIG, FEM, FSLM, and GDHC, and all those things you will see in the next slide as well. So next slide, please. We actually wanted to give you a glimpse of the engagements we are doing with the stakeholders and also the tools that we are using. GDHC is on our top priority, and HIG index is also top priority. So we are working on those. And Eurotex, as I mentioned to you, that we are helping the industry to grow the infrastructure to meet that ability to process that 5 million tons of waste every year from 2025. And the other important topic, but many people do not know probably, is called Together for Sustainability. It's also a nonprofit organization founded by forward-looking chemical companies in the domain like BASF and DSM and those. The main fundamental idea is many chemical companies like Lenzing, DSM, BASF, and all those share the same pool of suppliers, at least overlaps, right? We might share 200 of our suppliers with other chemical companies, right? So we are actually doing, we are partnering with them, sorry. So we are partnering with this organization where we don't need to do the audits of our suppliers all by ourselves. So whatever audits I do for a supplier, which may be shared by another supplier, can be used by them. So by this means we are reducing the burden on the suppliers, but also helping them improve their trajectory by providing tools for training like product carbon footprint and those. So I'm really looking forward to scale this further. We joined only last year in our procurement team is doing a fantastic job there to use it in our, we have 7,000 suppliers. So we need to actually work with the top 500 suppliers with these kind of tools so that we have our scope 3 emissions being covered very well, but also making progress on other topics like water, chemicals, and those kind of things, and ready for the upcoming regulations. So we are very proud to join there, but doing the work that is required. And we are working with Policy Hub and other areas where we have a lot of engagement to educate the policymakers on circularity and the future policies that will help the industry. So this is not comprehensive, just a few ideas within the time frame we have. Yeah, next slide, please. So in the next year, that is actually this year, 2023, we have some of the key areas that we are working on. EU policies and regulations is a top priority so that we provide you support when you need it, right? So we are actually on the way of supply chain due diligence implementation with EcoVadis and other things. And we are working closely on the green claims, what type of draft came 2-3 weeks ago. We know what is going on, what type of clarity we need. So we are working on that as well. So when the claims that come from Lenzing would also kind of adapt to that kind of wording and the required evidences and everything. So we are preparing ourselves. As you all mentioned about HIG tools and GDHC is also actually part of our topics and priority agenda. And as I said before, many companies do not have proper roadmaps. So we are actually updating our roadmaps on a yearly basis to improve ourselves. And our climate action plan is also available on the website. So please have a look at it. And we are working on improving biodiversity with conservation solutions. And we work with our suppliers to reduce their footprints further and get green raw materials. And but also I wanted to mention, I have seen some answers saying with low price fibers, which is very interesting to see, but I think we need to achieve the scale on sustainability before we achieve the low price. So that means when we are working with our suppliers, also we need to pay for the premium there. So it is not like we only talk about our fibers premium, but also the suppliers that we buy chemicals and those. So please be aware of that. And we are working with our suppliers very closely and all the stakeholder initiatives, which are very important to improve the bar of the industry. And the most important thing inside for the company is the fantastic work done by my colleagues at the learning and development team on the diversity and social impact projects. So they are also actually making great progress on improving the diversity of the company, where we need to go a long way, to be honest. As a chemical company, it is very difficult to have the diversity in the level that other companies have, but we need to make progress, no excuse. And we also have employee resource groups, which will help us make that progress on gender and multinationals, and also maybe other topics are coming as well. So these are the kind of things that are on our agenda, and our global sustainability team within Lenzing are doing it. So I would like to invite you to make better choices together with us. And by having responsible sourcing, providing lower footprint products to our customers and consumers, and helping do more sustainable innovations and providing transparency and traceability. We are your partners. We invite you to be part of our journey to make us succeed in the long run and succeed together and achieve our sustainability goals together. Thank you.
Thank you, Krishna. I think this was a very interesting presentation you did. And as promised, now, so a small remark before we go into the Q&A. We know only a few topics were covered. Please, once again, try to find the online report. Everything is in a comprehensive state there. You can also download it or just visit the microsite. Please also feel free to share this page. This is open to everybody. And after saying that, I would like to go over to the Q&A session. because we got quite a few interesting questions. Krishna, I would like to start with the first one. How do you deal with the EU Green Claims Directive?
Yeah, this is really important and a timely question in the current environment. We are actually working on several platforms. So one is the Policy Hub, where my colleague Daniela works with the team there. But also we have internally looking what are the implications of the green claims, like what are they asking. There is a lot of unclarity there, but one fundamental thing that is still goes back is science-based, up-to-date science methods for making your claims, right? So Lenzing has a long tradition of doing life cycle assessment for around more than 15 years. So we are actually ensuring that all our products actually come with the life cycle footprint, and those using the up-to-date methodologies and validating our primary data with the third parties. And so we are doing the groundwork on one hand so that we are ready for you when the rules change. But on the other hand, we are also seeking clarity from the European Commission so that we are contributing and having conversations with them to have the green claims regulation or directive. What do we need to do together? One of the most concerning thing there is it's a directive, means the European Commission puts a proposal forward, and when it is approved, all the member states has to translate into their countries. That means there is a lot of variation between countries. So we need to avoid that by having a harmonized methodology. So that's the biggest challenge in front of the industry, and we are working towards that harmonized methodology. Otherwise, especially brands and retailers selling in all these 25 European member states has to have different requirements to be met if we let it as a directive and every member state changes. So that is the target in front of all of us. So we need to work towards to create this harmonized methodology, which is also our job right now, not only preparing the groundwork for Lenzing to be on the forefront by continuously improving itself. Yeah, I hope that
Okay.
has answered your question.
Well, I think so. It was rather comprehensive. Okay, second one. In Lenzing stated headline achievements from 2022. Can you expand on what you mean by net benefit products?
Yeah, that's a really important question as well. So when you have a product, and if it actually brings sustainability benefits in a substantial way compared to the conventional one, let's take example of our modal indigo fibers, right? So they actually incorporate the pigment of indigo within the fiber making, the dope dyeing. So you have the fiber already being dyed. So you actually completely avoid actually the downstream denim dyeing. That means you are avoiding energy, water, chemicals, so that you reduce the footprint substantially, even maybe climate, maybe 60%. And we have actually numbers for that. So we call those products which are being the sustainable benefits in a substantial way as net benefit products. So you can expand this to others like our Tencel Lux product, our Refibra fiber, which also comes with lower water footprint, and we made it to be very low CO2 footprint as well with a lot of improvements. So these are the products compared to their conventional alternatives available on the market, providing substantial reductions.
Okay, thank you. I think this explains it rather well. Then another question directly from the audience. Could you tell a little bit more about how you measure your Scope 3 emissions, or can I find this somewhere in the report?
This is a really tough challenge for many companies, including Lenzing. However, we have a little bit better stand than the kind of textile value chain companies, since we buy a lot of chemicals from the market, right? And also those chemicals have there are third party LCA databases available with the generic information. So we use those, but we are also working with our most important suppliers, like you can say like top 20 suppliers of pulp and chemicals, and we are actually developing their site specific or actually the primary data specific footprint from the scope 3 emissions. So we have this two-pronged approach of using generic database from LCAs, and the second, we started even engagement 5 to 7 years before with our key chemical and pulp suppliers. So we are developing with them their own footprints of CO2 and those. So we are using those two approaches together. But for many brands and retailers and also textile value chain partners, it's a huge challenge to get scope 3 emissions. But we as Lenzing can provide you really credible scope 3 emissions from the fiber point of view, and hopefully that will reduce your CO2 footprint, which you can easily measure from our part of the value chain.
Thank you, Krishna. The next one, what are the restrictions and challenges with increasing the amount of recycled fibers up to 50%?
Yeah, I think this is an excellent question too. Right now, we do not have a industry where circular design is practiced, right? We mix like 3 to 5 fibers depending on what we are making on each product. And there is no, what do you call, um, scale technology to sort these different fibers. If you haven't sorted, you need even more chemicals, more energy to actually create the raw materials that are required. Like you have to separate polyester, nylon, cellulose, and all those things, and remove elastane. If you use elastane more than 5%, or it will be really difficult. So there are some chemicals which are like cross linkers, which wouldn't be really difficult to remove from the textile waste. So if you wanted to improve to 50%, we actually need to incorporate the circular design of our clothing, to be honest. Without that, you might be able to recycling. People actually say that the technologies need to do that. They might do it, but they might actually need a lot of chemicals to purify it, a lot of energy, a lot of water. And I don't think this is sustainable. So we have to work together on creating that circular design, sorting at a scale that we want, and companies like Lenzing can provide you the technology for translating that waste, which is maybe majority cotton waste or majority cellulose waste. We can then process that. Right now also we are able to do that, but there are so many challenges, as I mentioned, to remove all these chemicals and extra fibers and those kind of things. These are the biggest challenges we have. But one other thing, when we think from Lenzing point of view, whatever we make, again, I want to emphasize, we want them to be scalable in this textile value chain. That means no spinning faults, no dyeing and finishing problems. So you need to remove all those contaminants. Otherwise, if you dye, maybe somewhere the uptake is too much and somewhere the uptake is too little. So that's why the design and sorting and all those should be very important to have better quality garments as we have today, including recycled content.
Mm-hmm. Thank you. Thank you very much. The next one, how are the carbon neutral products audited against their emissions? Are these independently audited, and is there a certification?
Yeah, excellent. Actually, there are 3 pillars for our carbon neutral products. One is called reduction. So we reduce scope 1 and 2 as much as possible, as I have shown you that we have been moving to 100% renewable electricity and having even photovoltaics on the ground and energy efficiency and all those, even moving from coal to natural gas. And the second pillar is engagement. As I said, like we started engagement around, I think 7 years or 5 years already on talking to our most important supply chain partners like 2025 on reducing their emissions, right? That is scope 3. And by doing these two, we are actually able to provide some products with very low CO2 footprint. We are talking about 70% compared to the generic footprint, right? That's why I say very low footprint. And then those 30% unavoidable emissions today are actually being offset by carbon compensation projects. All these things are actually quantified in terms of numbers. What is the scope 3? Where is it originating? How much fuels you use? Scope 2, who is your supplier? What are the guarantees you have? What is the emission of your electricity, steam you buy, and all those? And then we have this detailed data that is being verified by a third party. And then it's being certified by another third party called Climate Partner, who is our carbon neutral certifier. So they are looking into all this data and also the improvements we are making in the industry. And the most important thing I wanted to mention is we are doing it by reducing as much as possible. We are not actually offsetting, like many companies are claiming that they are offsetting a lot and saying that they are not making carbon neutral products. But our intention is do as much as reduction today, despite it is very expensive, to be honest, but that's the right way to do. And then as we increase our scope 1 and 2 reductions, we reduce the amount of offsets required, and we intend to have offset less than 10% by 2050. But this is a journey, so we wanted to support other projects with the carbon offsets, so we are doing it together. So it is not an excuse, it is actually doing the real hard work of reductions and then going beyond that by using offset projects. I hope it helps.
Thank you. We still have 2 questions to answer. We have time for that?
I think I have at least.
All right. Then, Krishna, can you expand on what Lenzing is doing around next-gen materials? Is your R&D focused on exploring new opportunities beyond your current recycled pulp sources? And are there any timelines you could share?
Oh, yeah. This is actually as part of our circularity strategy at the group level and one of the important topics. So I think many of you remember that I think 1 year ago, I mean in 2021, we have launched a limited edition with orange pulp, and in 2022 we did with hemp pulp, right? And we are looking for these kind of innovations, but the scale they are available right now is very small. And we have in the past looked into agricultural residues and also bamboo, but many people are not aware that these the two components have, both bamboo and agricultural residues have a lot of silica content in it. So if you wanted to purify the pulp to make for fibers, you need to remove all the silica, which requires a lot of chemicals, again, a lot of energy. There is a lot of waste coming out of it with the chemicals. What do we do with that, right? How do you dispose it off? So it may look like it is good. So I would like you to use bamboo for mechanical applications. Like if you don't need to process bamboo, just use it for making a basket or maybe a shelf, whatever it is, just use it because it's great. But if you want to process it chemical to make a pulp, I think it is not actually as good as wood, because wood has a very interesting advantage. Wood has the bark. The bark actually extract all the chemicals, so they're all concentrated on the bark. So we can actually remove the bark and make it for using energy, making energy. But you can use the pulp, which is concentrated with cellulose and easily processable and comes with a lot of bioenergy. So we need to find this balance, and we wanted to improve on the alternatives, materials. But as I mentioned, it's not in our hands only, but we are also depending on the innovators in the field. So hopefully the platforms like Fashion for Good and those will scale those. And we are working with whoever innovator, like the names in the market, to scale theirs, and how can we be partner with them. And it's a really difficult area, but we have two goals. One is, as I mentioned, by 2025, we wanted to recycle around 25,000 tons of textile waste along with Sodra development. And we have also another goal for 2028 to recycle around 100,000 tons of textile waste. So we are doing our best in this, but the first and foremost is creating demand in the market. Without demand, to be honest, the peanuts will not make a huge difference. And I hope the regulation is actually going to change that in the future. So you all need to be geared towards that, and we will support you on getting more recycled materials and alternative cellulose sources as well.
Thank you, Krishna. I suggest one last question, because I think it's an important one. How can Lenzing's sustainability achievements for fiber production better translate to the market? Meaning, will Lenzing evolve how brands can use claims with their customers?
Absolutely, and customers are at the forefront of our innovation and also prioritization of the topics. So what we are doing is now we are following up through France and European Commission on what type of labeling requirements are coming there. At the same time, our brand claims are continuously being updated. And to be honest, we have a very strict scrutiny of our brand claims with our own lawyers and globally and those. However, of course, each brand has a final product, and our products are actually ingredients to their final product. So final communication is in their hands. We cannot control, even sometimes we even don't know what will be the final message. But from our ingredient branding point of view on the claims, we are actually updating and working towards improving as long, with the regulations. So that's one of our top priorities to support our partners.
Okay, thank you. We know that there are lots of questions and there are still a few that are being unanswered, but please, I ask you to get in contact with your local Lenzing contact person, with your business development contact person, and we will make sure to answer all of them. So also within our regional teams. So what now stays for me to say is thank you to Krishna for presenting and also answering all these questions. I think it was a really interesting and really important topic or topics you discussed today. The session is recorded, so whenever you had to leave a bit early, please feel free to revisit. We're happy that so many of you joined, and let's get together, get involved together, and make sustainability happen, make circularity happen. I think it's only an effort that can be done together. Krishna showed this today again. Let's partner up to make our whole industry more circular, get it from a linear to circular one. And thank you very much for being with us today. We look forward to the next time.
Thank you, Lisa, for the hosting this, and thank you all for joining and putting your time. Let's make better choices together to transform the world and the industry. Thank you, everyone. Bye-bye.
Thank you.